What's up, guys? Welcome to my YouTube channel, Dual Purpose. If this is your first time here, my name is Latoya and you're watching another episode of Dual Purpose Conversations, where I get to interview amazing people from around the world who'll be sharing with us their personal testimonies. We're also talking about self-care, self-love, and faith and business. In today's video, I'll be interviewing the lovely Adria, who's my best friend. We've been friends for more than 20 years, and she'll be talking to us about self-care as a new mum. So this video will be great for those of you who are looking for self-care tips from a point of view of somebody who is a new mum and also somebody who is a registered nurse. So if you enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up and also comment below, and comment if there's any particular topics that you would like for us to cover in the Dual Purpose Conversations series. If you'd like to be featured in the show, there's an email address in the description of this video. Simply email us and a member of the Dual Purpose team will be in touch with you. And finally, if you'd like to subscribe to our mailing list where we send out monthly devotionals amongst other things, feel free to subscribe. There's a link in the description of this video and we'll make sure to include you in our monthly mailings. So without further ado, let's get into today's video. So thank you so much for joining us today, Adria. It's a privilege to have you, my best friend for so many years. I feel old when I say that we've known each other for over 20 years, but friendships like this are definitely a blessing from God. And I just want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Okay. My name is Adria. I am a registered nurse and I have been in the healthcare field for over 7 years. I am a mom to an 18-month-old, rambunctious, 18 going on 18 years, um, baby girl who is the light of my life and my purpose for a lot of things that I do. And I'm currently a student finishing up my bachelor's, which will be my second, but this time in nursing. My plan is to kind of go as far as I can go in nursing to my doctorate level and hopefully to be influential in a lot of the ways that we implement our healthcare in the newly technologically forward world.
Wow, so you are very busy with work, with studying, and with an 18-month-old as well. So,
I
as
am.
a fairly new mum, how did you manage to keep self-care on your agenda with all the other things and all the other hats that you wear?
Oh, self-care was very hard to even add it to my agenda. I spent a lot of the time, I was I pumped all the time, so I didn't do the breastfeeding, but I was just like exclusively pumping. So I spent a lot of time like trying to get the milk production up, preparing myself to go back to the workplace, getting that family time in because everyone wanted to see and be around new baby. And I got to that point where I realized like I was losing me. So I would use the time when my daughter was with loved ones or with her dad to kind of do some self-love time to get back into my love of books, my love of music. And then as she got older, I realized that that self-care time didn't necessarily have to be a selfish time. So my love for music, now we have time, me and her, where we do our Zumbini, which is a baby version of Zumba. And we dance and we play the instruments that they have there. And we get have a fun time together. Or even at nighttime when it's time for bed, we have our special lullaby I sing for her. And that's my time of incorporating music. She actually loves books, which she got from both me and her dad. So we spend time together reading books and learning more about the world around us. And then when she's with her dad on the weekends here or there, I can go off and get my pedicure. And that's still some of my self time and my self love time.
Okay, that's great. So you've been able to include your daughter into your self-care time as well.
I definitely have because I've come to realize that there's no need for me to just be by myself to indulge in myself time.
Yeah.
It's what I enjoy doing, but if she loves it too, now it's something that we do together and it still enriches me. It still makes me feel like I'm taking good care of myself.
Hmm. And I did an interview recently with another lady, my first lady of my church. And, I was saying to her that when I came into 2020, I created my very first vision board. And on that, I put that self-care was going to be something that I would be intentional about this year. And I had all these plans of all the places I wanted to go and the things I wanted to do. And then the lockdown happened.
Mhm.
But despite that, I would say 2020, despite all the things that have been going on, I would have to say this has been one of the best years of my life so far. And I still feel that I have indulged in self care. And it's made me realize that sometimes self care is more internal than it is external. And
Very true.
we do the external things really because we want that internal feeling. So from a nursing point of view, how important do you think it is to make sure that you're looking after yourself from a mental perspective as well, from a mental health perspective, so that you can truly care for yourself and for your child or children?
It is very important. I would say at least 50, in some cases, 75% or even 90% is that mental health, that I am going to get well. I am going to walk out of here. I'm pulling on that spiritual side of me, whether it's I believe in God or whatever religion you have, and pulling that into yourself to help you get out of this hospital today. If you're not mentally there, if you mentally check out, your body will do the same. So it is
Mm-hmm.
definitely very important to make sure that your mind is as well as your body is. They work hand in hand. You can't have one healthy without having the other healthy.
Yeah, and I think that's great because I think mental health is a topic that's being addressed more now, but it's crucially important. And I think often everything else flows from where we are in our minds. So, what practical tips would you give to the new mom watching this who just feels like maybe she's let herself go, or she doesn't know how to incorporate self care, but then still be active and provide for her children and possibly her spouse? What practical tips would you say that she could implement today?
I would say first thing is to come to the realization it's never too late. It's never too late for you to start taking care of yourself. It's never too late to turn something around. And then always remember, healthy mom is healthy family is healthy baby. You were who you are is who you're going to be able to show the world. So you have to make sure that you're okay if you want your to not pass those things on to your children, and if you want to have like wellness in your home. I would definitely say the first thing to do is to remember what makes you yourself and get back to it. I know my faith is major to me, and through my faith I have my love for music, I have my love for reading, and even if it means like I just take 5 minutes while I'm in the bathroom and don't actually use the bathroom, but spend that time in there listening to some music, it's a start. If you can schedule the time, make sure that you have it scheduled every 2 weeks or every week. This time slot that you're going to have for yourself, that you will have someone to have your back and kind of come in and take care of baby, and or even like, hubby, you have dinner tonight. You're going to do dinner tonight, and I'm going to put the baby down early, and I'm going to take that 30 minutes or that hour to myself to really make sure like I'm getting myself together, whether it's like a long bubble bath, whether it's a body scrub, whatever it is. If it's running to the store to be, just in that mental space for a little bit, just create that time for yourself. And I promise you, once you start, it will be very easy to continue on that path.
Yeah, so from what you're saying, then sometimes it doesn't have to be a whole spa day or even a spa weekend. I mean, that's the dream. And it's that saying there's the real and then there's the ideal. And it might not be ideal for you to go away for the day, but if you can just fit those shorter slots of self care in, that helps overall. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it helps overall, and it'll get you to that spa day. The spa day is not realistic now, but the spa day may be realistic in 6 months. But it doesn't mean you have to wait for 6 months for the spa day. Start now and build up to that time.
Yeah. And you mentioned also that, possibly you can ask your spouse or others to step in and help. And I know that sometimes it can be difficult to ask for help because sometimes we feel that asking for help is a reflection that we're not coping. But actually, sometimes asking for help is the best thing that you can do. So, how important do you think it is to have that support network, that support system that you can ask others to step in and help?
I think it's major to have that support system, but to also understand that if someone isn't supporting you the way that you want them to support you, it doesn't mean that you don't have their support. You do have to verbalize those needs sometimes so that people can help you with those needs. So, for instance, I have my mom and she'll keep my daughter on days that I'm at work. But if I don't tell her that there's something coming up on the weekend that I need her help with to maybe watch my daughter for a few hour or half the day, or even to do it overnight, she will never know. So I do have to make those needs known to those around me. Be aware that your support system aren't just the people that you think you can count on. Open your eyes up and look around. There's a lot of people there that will be willing to come in and kind of help you in any way possible. I know we're in the middle of this COVID era right now, so it's very difficult to feel like you can trust those outside of your home. So it's going to take a lot of like looking at those people that you know are very cleanly or washing their hands. They're taking the time to be very careful. They're self-isolating themselves also. That could be like a one of the elders from church that you know you would always spend time with at church. That could be a person that you could reach out to and say, hey, do you mind coming by my house and kind of just, you know, keeping an eye on my daughter for 2 hours or 4 hours? I need to run to the store. And then using those people as your resources. So always remember, you know, like it's those people that you are not thinking of as a resource that have sometime reached out to you and maybe didn't help you the way you wanted them to help you. Just be aware you have to verbalize. And when you verbalize, you'll see that you'll get exactly what you need.
I think that's so important because sometimes we expect people to know what we need, or maybe we just struggle to ask for that help. And so that's really great advice that we have to tell people. And if they can help, I'm sure that they will. And if they can't, possibly another time. But you mentioned earlier something that I just want to pick up on. So you were talking about how we can sometimes pass things down, whether that's consciously or not. So with you practicing self-care with your daughter at times, is that something that you are doing intentionally so that, later as she grows up, she understands that there are times when you just need to have that downtime, you need to zone out, you need to have this self-care time? Is that something that you are intentional about teaching your daughter?
Oh, for sure. There's a lot of things I'm very intentional about teaching her, as far as a woman's standpoint, and then also as just a human being standpoint, to be kind to others, to love yourself so you can love others, to, all of those basic principles from the Bible, to kind of, like, be kind to your neighbor. But I feel like if I don't teach her how to take that time for herself, even like self-soothing is so major for kids because they depend on you a lot for that, to kind of lead them through that process, to go to sleep, to go down for naps. And they do need to learn how to self-soothe themselves and what they can do to kind of make themselves feel at peace and calm enough to go to sleep. So it's very much a part of like a child, but also as a part of a human being, to learn like the things that I enjoy and foster those things. So even in reading, like fostering the fact that she likes to read, because eventually we'll learn to branch into education, and I want her to do well in school and give herself a good footprint there. So yeah, like it's very interesting that you put it that way, because I never really thought of it like that before. But for sure, that self-love, that self-soothing, that love of self, being able to find that time to kind of do those things that make her happy is something that I do want to foster in her, to make sure that that follows her through to adulthood.
Okay. And that's really good. And I think the younger that we can begin to teach our children these types of things, it becomes a part of them. It's like the Bible says, train up a child in the way that he should go. And when he's old, he will not depart from it. And whilst I know that that's primarily speaking about teaching them the ways of God, I think everything that we teach to them from a young age, they will never forget those things. And as they grow older, they will continue to instill those things in their lives. So you mentioned earlier about how your faith is important to you and how your faith helps you with self-care. Do you want to talk to us a little bit more about how your faith helps you with self-care? Because I know that some people watching this channel, some of them are Christian, some of them may not be, some may be other religions or various different things. So how has your faith helped you to prioritize self-care?
Wow, this is going to be a very good story. Probably a little bit longer of a story. I don't think you knew what you just asked me, but so a little bit of my history. I grew up in Jamaica, and my mom left Jamaica when I was about 5 with my sister, who was about 1 at the time. And they moved to America, and I lived with family members all over Jamaica, from Lucy, where I was born and grew up, to Spanish Town for a little while, then kind of came back to Lucy. But I remember like never really feeling alone ever. And I chose from a very early age. My mom's Anglican and my dad's 7 Day Adventist to be a 7 Day Adventist. And I remember just like loving the songs, loving the stories, just like never feeling alone. Like never really feeling like, even though my mom was gone, that I was by myself. Like I knew she was gone, I was aware. I knew my dad was gone, I was aware. But I never really felt alone. I would find a lot of peace in nature and things around me, and kind of just, like that Holy Spirit, like just feeling him with me. And as I grew and got older and older, it did kind of branch off into my love of music, which is how me and Latoya met, was through the love of music. And then also it just always gives me this peace. So you can just imagine like being a 5 year old, turning into an 11-year old, turning into finally living with my mom when I was 14. And family members can love you, but no one loves you like your parents do. So I really did have to teach myself a lot. And I really did have to kind of like decide the person that I wanted to be. And my roadmap for being that person I wanted to be was the Bible. My roadmap for being, learning what I wanted to impart to the world, learning how to love myself and my neighbors was all in the Bible. That feeling of not being alone was the Holy Spirit. And those things, whichever way that I pulled those into my core being, to who I am, kind of made that that chart that kind of developed me into who I am. So it's really hard to figure out like how, but I think that that's just the way that the Holy Spirit is. Like we can't really tell the how, we can't tell the when. We think we can, but it's all beyond us. But that peace that you have in your heart, in your soul, that strength that you have inside of yourself, as you watch him work in your life and you see things come to fruition that you only prayed of, you only thought was possible, and the way that things happen in your life, all of those things allow me to sit back and think like, how did these things happen? And I know it was God. I know it was the Holy Spirit, because I know what me as a human, what capable of, and I know I could not make any of these things happen. I couldn't make myself be a mom. I couldn't make myself be a nurse. I could not make myself, own a home. I could not make myself now be in a position where I'm teaching fellow nurses how to document in a system that is new to us. Just the way that things fall into place. I know if I had a way of doing it, where I would be, and I see the way that God has done it, and that is beyond my imagining.
Yeah, and I think from me having watched your journey and the amazing things that you're doing right now, I'm so very proud of all the things that you are achieving. And one of the things that I've done a couple of these interviews now, but one of the things that seems to keep coming up, which seems to be a little bit of what you were saying, but I just want to ask you to expand a little bit more, is that this is all about a journey. It's all about a journey, and a journey of self-discovery, discovering who we are and allowing God into those places where we are maybe broken, where we feel that we've been neglected or hurt, and things like that, and allowing God to really guide us on our journeys. So there are two recurring themes that seem to keep coming up in these interviews that I've been doing, and one of them is about us being on a journey of self-discovery, and the second one is learning and finding out who we are. And in finding out who we are, self-love then comes and self-care then comes. So can you add anything to that? How important do you think the journey of self-discovery is to also the journey of self-care and self-love?
I think it's very important. If I don't know myself, how can I expect anybody else to know me? If I don't know what makes me happy, then how can I be happy? It's not possible. You'll always be looking for something if you don't know what that core of you is. So I think for me, it really was, I'm going to age myself, but once I hit my 30s, I really had this better understanding of myself, and understanding that I'm good enough by myself. If I have nobody else with me, I find myself happiness by myself. If I sit in a room, I can be happy by myself because I know those things that are going to make me happy, make me smile. So that way, when I'm in a room with somebody else, I can tell them how to love me too. I can tell them the things that make me happy. I can tell them, what I like and I don't like because I figure those things out by myself. Not saying you have to be 30 to understand what it is that you love, but you do have to take that time to kind of sit down and understand, what do I need? What do I love? What makes me happy? What makes me sad? And then once you know those things, it's very easy to tell other people those things and to kind of stay on that path to your self love. You know, I know some people will say, there's like a saying out there, like, if you don't love yourself, how are you going to love somebody else? Like, it's 100% true. And how can somebody love you the way that you need to be loved if you don't know how to love yourself? It's 100% the same.
Yeah. And I think going back to the Bible even tells us to love others as we love ourselves. So the prerequisite is that we need to love ourselves before we can love other people. So that's so important. So one of the other things that I want to ask you, this wasn't one of my questions that I planned, but just as you were speaking, this is what came to me, and maybe somebody needs to hear this, is sometimes, some of the mothers that may be listening to this, maybe their circumstances of becoming a mother were not ideal. There could be any number of different reasons as to why they've ended up where they are. So, possibly there's somebody watching this who is a new mum and made the decision to become a mum because they themselves don't actually love themselves. I know of people who felt that if I have a child to love and to love me, then that will help me to love myself and that will give me the love that I'm looking for. What would you say to that mother who's watching this, who has this child because they were looking for that love themselves and now have this child and they're still battling with the self-love that they haven't actually addressed yet?
Yeah, I think if you're right now watching this, you are home with your child for whatever reason, whatever circumstances, whether, you intentionally decided to, plan this out, or, you were blessed to just have this child in your life and you're battling with this love issue. I just want you to know that you're not alone in this process. Like, even me knowing what love was, I do have my time, and loving myself, I do have my times where I do have to battle, with, what I'm dealing with, because you can talk about parenthood, you can talk about everything, but until you're living it and you're in the middle of it, you just never really understand what it all is that you signed up for. You have to be the best person you can for this little person that's going to turn into an adult too. And you're thinking about all the ways that you fall short to make sure that you don't give those things to this person. But I want you to know that there is no set roadmap that says that you have to go through a process a certain way. What you do have to do is your best, your absolute best. And if you feel that you're not doing your best, there are resources that you can reach out to. You have your church resources, you have your family resources. And if they're not listening to you, don't stop. Keep pushing and keep pushing until you're getting that help that you need so that you can be the best person you can for your child and for yourself. I want you to know that us moms are out here and we're doing the best that we can and we're struggling through. I didn't choose to be a single mom. I thought I was going to be a mom with, a husband and a whole family, but my plans have changed. My path has changed and I'm rolling with it. But you know what? When I sit there and I think what I'm capable of, I think if I could go back and change anything, I would do it the same way every single time to get me to where I am, because she needs to be here and she was supposed to be here with me. I'm supposed to be her mom. And whatever it takes for you to get to that place where you can say to yourself, whether in a mirror, whether looking at your child who is a mirror of yourself, and just say, I'm supposed to be here. This is supposed to happen. Whatever tools I have available to me, I am going to use them. Whatever I need, I'm going to ask for it. I'm going to find my help out here. I'm going to build my village and we are going to get through this whatever way possible. Just know that you can do it. If you feel like you're doing something wrong, please reach out to your resources. We're all here to help. I promise you, there are online groups that you can post. Yes, there's some negative Nancy's, but I'm a positive Polly. And if I see that post, I will be happy to hop on there and give you any positivity that I can give you, to just let you know, like, we're human, we fall short, but one person doesn't. It's God, and through him, all things are possible. We can do it all. We can get to the other side. Okay, so no, you're not by yourself in the middle of this. And there's never an ending point. You can always turn things around. Don't ever feel like you're stuck in a rut. Okay, you can always make it better. You can always change. You can always improve. And I'll tell you something too that I've noticed with my daughter. We get stuck as adults. Like we have our moments and kids keep it moving. Okay. Like I can brush her teeth every night of the week this week, and then next week we do it in the halfway through the day, and she will flow with it. Okay. Kids do not get stuck in a rut like us adults do. Sometimes we can take something from them and we can learn to be flexible and move and grow. So don't feel like you're ever stuck in a rut. Please just know like this isn't the end. As long as we're alive, we can do something. Okay. It's not the end. It's not over. Okay, you have resources, use us.
That's great advice. Thank you so much, Adria, for speaking to that young mom out there who needed that word of encouragement. And I guess the final question from me is, again, we could have somebody watching this who's like, do you know what, Latoya and Adria, I've heard everything that you're saying. It sounds great, but I've neglected self-care because I've been focusing on my family. I've been focusing on the children, possibly the husband, the ministry, work, all the many different hats that sometimes we wear as women. And this person could be thinking, I'm hearing everything you're saying, but I've neglected self-care and I don't know how to get myself back to that point. I'm feeling down, I'm feeling depressed. What would you say to that person just to lift them up today listening to this? And it may not be an immediate overnight change, but just some form of encouragement to that person who's feeling down because they now know that they've actually neglected to look after themselves.
I want you to know, like, I hate to tell people to not feel something. If you're feeling down, if you feel sad, feel it for a little bit and then get a plan together. What can I do to change this? Now that I've seen something wrong, how can I change it? How can I start? What can I implement that I can stick with? That type of thing. I know for me, I had to look at my daughter and realize like I gave so much. I didn't know if I had anything else left to give. And I felt like I was falling short, but she was bouncing in my lap. She was laughing. She's such an outgoing kid. She loves to play with kids and she's just really around only my nephew. So I've raised a well rounded child. So take a minute and look around at everything that you have spent your energy on. Look how well it is flourishing. Imagine how well you could flourish if you spent that time on yourself, just a little time. So go ahead, look at the calendar. Where's your 30 minutes? Start there. Every week, 30 minutes. Every 2 weeks, an hour. Find out when in a weekend can you sneak off and go get a pedicure, you know, or what can I start now in my household? How can I include my loved ones in my self-care, in my self-love time? Can I do some meditation all together? Do we start a yoga class all together? Can we sit out in the garden every evening for about 30 minutes, just enjoying the weather, enjoying the sun, the plants, everything around us in nature? Can we go for a walk? My daughter loves walks. So can we go for a walk? Can I put my headphones in and kind of just blast that music that takes me to that good place that makes me happy, makes my soul happy? Find something, anything, how little it is, and then implement that in your schedule and build on it. And I promise you that you will see everything around you flourish and you will flourish from the inside out. And the more you add to yourself is the more that you can expand to those around you. So if you're using up all of your energy and you're burning out, you need to recharge so you can keep going.
That's such great advice. Thank you so much, Adrian. I think that advice doesn't only pertain to mums, it's
No,
like
it
you were talking
doesn't.
to me too. I think that's just great life advice for anybody that's watching this video. So thank you so much for depositing these words of wisdom and also some practical tips that we can implement to make sure that, as you said, we are flourishing from the inside out. So thank you so much for being with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure interviewing you. And I just pray that whoever's watching this video has found that encouragement and uplifting that they needed today. So thank you so much for being with us.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure. Bye, guys.
Bye.